This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Hey, it's Vince Ferrara. This is Next Level. Today, we're going to take a look at the top 5 VFLs in the National Football League, and we're going to have a VFL that give us his thoughts as well next. This is Will West. Will, great to have you hanging out with us. We're going to talk some VFLs in the National Football League.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, and this show is going to be focused. Today, we're talking about guys in the NFL, but we're going to talk about all of the University of Tennessee athletes, Vols, Lady Vols, in pro sports. Next level, the highest level. That's what we're going to do each week. Take that unique perspective, concentrating on those VFLs in the pros in the next level. So today we're going to get you a top 5, the 5 best performances in the NFL among VFLs. First, big picture. There's 37 VFLs in the league right now. Some of those are practice squad and injured reserve, things like that. 10 starters among those. What do you think about where Tennessee is in terms of representation in the NFL?
Behind where you want to be, but at the same time, man, it's growing quickly, right? So, and especially as Josh Heupel continues to have more classes with 4- and 5-star players, it's just tough with guys that were transfer 2- and 3-star players, and 3-star players that the past staff brought in. It's tough to get those guys in the National Football League. They're going to be a step slow. They're going to be a little smaller than what the ideal player is in the National Football League. So these numbers are only going to grow from here for Tennessee as you get more 5-stars, more 4-stars in.
Well, and then those first rounders, you're going to get James Pierce Jr. that will join that group. And we will talk about those guys in the NFL for the draft in shows to come. But let's get to our top 5. This is focused on the regular season. So in the comments section, give us your top 5 and let us know how you viewed those VFLs in the NFL in the regular season. All right, at number 5, Chicago Bears starting right tackle Darnell Wright, number 10 overall pick from a couple of years ago, will drastically improved from what we saw. He struggled his rookie year at the NFL, but what do you think about Darnell Wright this season?
Pro Football Focus 16th overall rated tackle in the National Football League, 7th in run blocking, but especially weeks 11 through 17, Darnell Wright really came along.
Yeah.
It was not a great first 10 weeks of the season for him as far as pass pro was concerned, but the last week 11 to week 17, last 7-8 weeks of the season, 1 sack, 3 hurries. That's all he allowed. Yeah. So he really came along as far as that's concerned, and especially you think with Ben Johnson taking over as coach, that's going to help him out a lot. And it has to be difficult because Caleb Williams is a guy that will throw off platform.
Right.
He might be in the pocket. He might just take off, and you don't know why, right? That's kind of what Caleb is. So it had to be tough developing that rapport. But it seems like once he figured out a little bit of the timing of his quarterback and what his QB likes to do, all of a sudden those numbers got a lot better for Darnell Wright.
Yeah, penalties were down. I mean, everything across the board was down. And look, it took him a minute at the University of Tennessee, but when it clicked, he was as good as he gets. So Darnell Wright at number 5. At number 4, another guy on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not sure that many expected him to be this good, but terrorizing offensive linemen around the league. Byron Young, Rams edge. This is just on in the regular season, still outstanding with 9 sacks, 28 hurries, 37 tackles, and impacting quarterbacks and offenses throughout the league.
And what's interesting about Byron Young for me is I thought he could make it as a rotational pass rusher. Right? Like passing downs, he's a guy that you could throw out there, and yes, he's probably not going to start. No, he's an every down player.
Yeah.
And he got thrown into the mix when they just didn't have other options. So Byron Young gets thrown into it. My favorite Byron Young story came this past week from a beat writer for the Raiders.
Better than the Dollar General story?
I think it's better than the Dollar General story. Said the Raiders accidentally drafted the wrong Byron Young. A few picks ahead of this Byron Young. They thought they were drafting Tennessee's Byron Young, turned in the wrong card and paperwork. Ended up drafting Alabama defensive tackle Byron Young. He is playing as many snaps in the National Football League as I am right now. And so I absolutely love that because it's the most Raiders story in the history of Raidersdom.
It would be cool if that was true, and maybe it is, but if anyone's going to do it, it would be the Raiders.
I want it to be true, so I'm going to will it to happen.
Absolutely. And look, Byron Young, he's got a lot of help on that defense now. 14 of their starting 22, their own draft picks, and 9 of them in the first 3 rounds. So he's only going to get better with all the young talent. The Rams draft so well.
No, they do. They've done a fantastic job because they didn't have first-round draft picks. They did not have cap space. So what they had to do was picks 2 through 7. They had to go get guys. And they were able to do that with the Rams, and they're playing. And a lot of them, they just had to throw like Byron Young. They had to throw into action when other teams probably wouldn't have thrown them out there, and man, has Byron Young come along.
Yeah, and utilizing undrafted free agents like Jalen McCullough and more. All right, this guy, a veteran, another outstanding season, third highest rushing yards in a season for Alvin Kamara, Saints running back, 950 yards rushing for Alvin Kamara. Yeah, it wasn't his best overall year. He's had a couple better, but still, he's a threat in the passing game and is very productive. Didn't play as much this year with as many snaps or games.
Yeah, no, 14 games. So for him to have over 900 yards rushing, over 60 catches, and especially with that quarterback situation, you know, I actually got a couple snaps for the Saints this year at QB. But Alvin Kamara in 14 games puts up over, I guess, about 1,500 yards of total offense on the year. You'll take that all day long, especially with a bad quarterback and a bad offensive line situation at times with the Saints.
Yeah. All right. So another guy that is as popular as it gets, Calvin Kamara certainly is, but Trey Smith, starting right guard for the Kansas City Chiefs, looking to three-peat, and he is such a big part of the success in those 2 Super Bowls that the Chiefs have already won, and as consistent as it gets, as nasty as it gets. What do you think about Trey Smith at number 2?
I think it's perfect. I think Trey Smith is a fantastic player. He's exactly the player that everyone hoped he would be coming out of Tennessee. I understand the medicals made him fall down draft boards, but we all knew he was going to be this. He's unbelievable. He was the one of those guys on the interior offensive line for the Chiefs that wasn't an all-pro this year. Joe Tunney was, Creed Humphrey was, but Trey Smith's just as good as those guys. And he's going to get paid. Report out of New York this week, the Giants looking to offer him maybe $20 million per year to leave whenever the season finally ends for Kansas City.
Yeah, I can see your pray emoji.
All day, I need it. I need someone who can block. Anyone who can block.
That's not a new thing for the Giants and their desire for that. But he did get named to the Pro Bowl, even though it's not the same, but still absolutely deserves it. All right.
And the kind of guy he is off the field as well, and what he brings from a culture standpoint, is incredible.
Man, unbelievable. And, oh, by the way, the Chiefs know how to draft also.
Yeah.
All right. Another team that knows how to draft is the San Francisco 49ers. Took this guy, third in Juwan in the 7th round. Juwan Jennings, our torchbearer from the University of Tennessee, the best regular season among VFLs. Again, regular season among VFLs. Career highs, 77 catches, 975 yards, 6 TDs. Previous high catches was 39. And if he doesn't get ejected from the last game, Joshua Dobbs is feeding them the rock. He's going to get to 1,000, just 25 yards short. He said that one hurt.
Yeah, and I think like 117 targets is what Juwan had as well. So really, because of the injury situation there, he's been a really good player because he can block, and he brings a lot of toughness to your outside, your edge. I mean, the corners now don't want somebody like Juwan trying to block them, right? He's a weapon as far as in the running game, just alone with that. And then he was the 4th or 5th receiving option. Well, this year, there were times he was the first receiving option for the Niners because of their injuries, and he's made the most of it. And yes, he gets kicked out of the game before he gets to 1,000 yards. But if there's anything that was going to get Juwan Jennings kicked out of the game, it was being too aggressive, blocking, and then fighting someone. Yeah. And I got to be honest, I don't think the Niners staff has a problem with that ejection whatsoever.
How about, in all things considered, the number 14 wide receiver on Pro Football Focus grade now? There's a lot of elite level wide receivers that he was rated ahead of. Had a catch in every game, including a career game against the Rams. 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 TDs. I mean, just that jump this year. Hopefully he will get a new deal. He got a little something last year, but man, he deserves everything he gets in terms of money and a contract in the future.
And Juwan Jennings is exactly what you want out of a day 3 pick, right? Yeah. He was a guy that you thought, okay, his measurables maybe a tad slow, but I know he has work ethic. I know he wants to fight somebody. Right. I know in single coverage, throw the ball up, he will go make a play for me. Let's see if he can make it on a football team. The Niners rolled the dice on him, took him late in the draft, and he's ended up being an everyday starter for them and a star this year.
Yeah, unbelievable. Anything else in terms of the league this year, in terms of VFLs that jumped out to you?
I want to see what Jalen McCullough does.
Right.
Because I think that he was just a bad fit for what Josh Heupel liked to do defensively, what Tim Banks liked to do defensively. I think he's more of a box safety. And let's see if Jalen McCullough maybe next year can't get himself into maybe being on this list when we do it next season. That's a guy that I wonder about. Otherwise, a lot of Tennessee guys are providing depth. They aren't necessarily top-line starters yet. Right. A lot of them are young, so we'll see if they grow into that. But To me, having the guys in the league is going to lead to more guys getting into the league as Josh Heupel continues to improve in recruiting.
Amazing how when Deshaun Watson isn't throwing the football in Cleveland, that Cedric Tillman appears.
Yes. So, well, there are some quarterbacks that need a guy to be wide open.
Right.
Cedric Tillman is never going to be that guy. You just throw the ball up to him in single coverage and let him make a play.
Right. All right. Fun stuff. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you.
How about our next guest joining us to talk about the VFLs in the National Football League? That's what we do here on Next Level. Those that are in all sports currently in the pros on that next and highest level. He has been there. He is VFL. You hear him on my morning show with John Wilkerson, Sports Talk, and on 99.1 The Sports Animal. That is Matt Sims. Matt, thanks for joining us on the show. Great to talk to you. How are you?
I'm doing well, Vince. How are you, man?
Man, doing great. Thanks for the time. Let's start with this season. And we did our top 5 in the National Football League with VFLs this year. Give me a couple of the most impressive VFLs during the regular season that you saw perform representing that Power T for the University of Tennessee this season.
Yeah, I mean it's quite a group that we have right now in the NFL. I mean, I think you got to kind of start with the two guys from LA, McCullough and Young, and how they've been playing and how they've been a part of just that rebuild there for Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. And I think they've done tremendous things, for their young careers and what the future holds for these men. Then I go to the old savvy vet of Barnett. And what he was able to do for the Houston Texans and being just a guy that's like a solid vet that really can do a little bit of everything, playing the run, playing the pass, and getting after the passer. From there, it really is kind of a toss-up as far as just the other players that you want to involve. I think for a guy like Palmer, really excited for him, the fact that he's able to be a part of that new era there with Harbaugh and being involved, especially with a young, talented quarterback in Justin Herbert. I think he's in a really good place, too, to really develop and be useful for the future in that offense and all the things that they can do. So some players there that definitely have some promising futures, and it's a good time, I think, for a lot of the VFLs. And we'll see too, just some of the guys that maybe haven't lived up to expectations quite yet, but still kind of making their way through the league. So we'll see how that plays out. The game is so difficult, and it's hard for some of these young players to adjust. And I know there's a few guys that they're going to have those breakthrough moments here coming soon.
You think the Chiefs are going to pay Trey Smith?
I sure would like him to get paid. That's for sure. And that's the difficult thing that we always have to keep in mind when we're talking about the NFL too, is just kind of the bigger picture of everything. But no doubt Trey has done tremendous things for them, and being a part of essentially a modern day dynasty that way is pretty special. Will they pay him to the extent that he's looking for? I don't know, but either way, he's definitely playing himself into money, and that's really the biggest thing. He's taking care of himself and taking care of his work, and that's what matters most.
And a guy that's come a long way, has quite the story. He was our torchbearer for the season, and as Juwan Jennings with the 49ers, just 25 yards short of 1,000 career highs across the board. What'd you think of the season Juwan Jennings had?
I love Juwan. I really thought that he was one of those guys that was underappreciated a year ago. Even this past year, I feel like people were kind of overlooking him just because of the fact of all the big names there in San Francisco and what they can do. But I think Juwan, his ability to obviously do multiple things for that 49ers offense is extremely impressive. What I love about Juwan, too, is he brings a level of physicality and just overall football IQ and awareness there. And if you're going to play for Kyle Shanahan, that is exactly what you need to do and the kind of guy you need to be all the time. So that just speaks to just his hard work and his discipline and his understanding of the game, because Kyle doesn't just play anybody. He plays guys that know what they're doing, that play hard and are disciplined and care about their teammates. And Juwan is absolutely the epitome of those things.
Hey, we're visiting with Matt Sims here, VFL analyst for SiriusXM Radio on NFL Radio Channel 88, and then also on ESPN Radio on their platform. Did College Game Day all season long, has done that the last couple of years. Also at Sims Complete on social media. Check him out. for terrific content and still working to shape young football players and quarterbacks as well. So, Matt, you were in the National Football League long time, and you're able to have that role as a backup quarterback for a long time and working with some of the greats in the NFL as
Right.
well. There are 3 VFL backup quarterbacks in the league right now. Tell us what that life is like as a backup quarterback, and then relate it back to what those guys, Joe Milton, Joshua Dobbs, Hendon Hooker, what it's like for them as a backup in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's it was really special too for even for me personally to be able to play against Josh Dobbs when he was at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it was actually maybe his first preseason game that he ever got an opportunity to play in. At the time, I was playing for the Atlanta Falcons, and that was actually the first time that I ever met Joshua after the game, just saying, "Hey, what's up, man?" I was like, "I'm Matt Sims, and I played for Tennessee too." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I know you." And I was like, "I think he was just being nice," but but it was cool to see the beginning of his career there in the NFL, and of course, from my own experience and knowing that it's difficult to break through, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, Josh, he had a phenomenal college career. I was a different kind of guy that survived to be in the NFL, where he was a guy that really earned the right to be in the NFL, and I just thought it was so awesome to see. That moment, obviously it being a big time thing, just being your first experience in the preseason, but to see his growth at the position and his opportunities that he has got throughout the years has been absolutely tremendous. And for all the young QBs at home, for the fathers that are watching this who have young QBs or coaching young football players, the 3 things that are a few main things that stick out with these 3 characters that we're talking about here, these VFLs, is they're high character guys. They're good people. They're people that naturally you gravitate towards and you want to be around and you want to spend time with and get to know better. They're people too that I think are force multipliers, or people that really can motivate and help. And not only that, on top of that, but they care about the game. They care about improving at the game, and then they have the raw talent to do it. For Hendon Hooker, really excited to see kind of what happens for him. I think really he's had a tough time with the transition of kind of the Josh Heupel offense to then going to the NFL, and really all the demands that asks of the position as far as just how it's played compared to the Heupel offense. And of course, his injury going into the league, I think, slowed down that progress as far as where he's at currently. So I think this is going to be a big offseason for him, and going to be a big camp coming up for him as well. I think for Joe Millen, I really always thought extremely high of Joe Millen. I thought that he was extremely talented. We all know that he's a talented quarterback. I think he's also a quarterback that really just needs more repetitions. And I was really excited to see his performance there for the New England Patriots at the end of the year against the Buffalo Bills. And I don't care what anybody says, oh, it was the backups, this or that. When you go out on that NFL field and you're playing, whether it's backup or third stringers, I mean, these are guys that this is the business that they're in. This is how they feed their families. And for the things that he did on that field, I mean, they were top 10 first round quarterback quality measurables that he was doing and attributes on the field. And whenever you're watching a game and you say, wow, multiple times, as far as just what you're seeing just displayed out there, the athleticism, the awareness, the composure, it's truly tremendous. So I think for New England, I don't know if they know this, but they got 2 really, really good quarterbacks, and the backup might be honestly the more talented player that with more opportunities really can create himself a future in the NFL. But for all 3 guys, high character guys, really solid football players, and all of them kind of different trajectories through the league, which is really interesting as well.
So real quick, I want to circle back to Hendon Hooker's situation. We're focusing on the regular season, but we did see in the Lions playoff game where they had to go to their backup quarterback. Well, they brought in Teddy Bridgewater late in the year, and Hendon Hooker slid back to the number 3. Does that change your vision of Hendon Hooker's future, not just with the Lions, but maybe in the league to move on, or the demand for him if he isn't going to stay with the Lions?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it says to his position at the Lions. I think whenever you're in the NFL, you can never have too many good quarterbacks on your roster. But I think more so it's kind of just a wake up call, too, that there's clearly some things that he needs to improve from a standpoint that makes the coaches trust in him and believe in him and can empower him to be able to be that guy to stand in that position and say, yeah, I am your backup quarterback and I am one play away from being the guy for our franchise. So there's things that, of course, in the NFL, it's not always true either that to say that Teddy is a better player than Hendon at the moment. It really just goes back to, well, Teddy's played in games and, we feel confident that he can go. And really, it's kind of like a silly thing because it's just a bunch of scouts in a room sometimes that are kind of talking themselves into like why one player is better than the other instead of giving a guy like Hendon an opportunity to play. So it is interesting that way, but hopefully Hendon can continue to work and improve it and gain that trust and confidence in the coaching staff and management.
Well, you are our starter, Matt Sims,
Yeah,
Sirius
sure.
XM, ESPN Radio, College Game Day, Sims Complete podcast. Matt, thank you so much. You're the best. Appreciate you, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vince. I really appreciate it, and go Vols.
All right, thank you. That is Matt Sims. Outstanding content there. Hey, that'll do it for this week's edition of Next Level, the first show on the Sports Source Digital Network. We'll be back next week. We will talk about Vols in the playoffs, including in the Super Bowl. We'll break it all down next week and much more. I'm Vince Ferrara. Check out John Wilkerson and myself on 99.1 The Sports Animal at Sports Talk each weekday morning from 6 until 9 a.m. And you can catch me on the other Sports Source shows as well. For Matt Sims, Will West, and our entire crew, I am Vince Ferrara. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for watching. See ya. This is Next Level.